Good morning. Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. And as you're making it into the room, here's what we always love to do. We love to hear from you. So if you would go ahead and start just throwing in, I see that Michelle's made it in the room from Marion, Ohio. That's awesome. We were in Ohio less than 2 weeks ago. We did this whirlwind trip of 6,000 miles round trip in about 3 days to go and get our new puppy, which is pretty insane. But, you do what you can for your kids, right? There's Desiree that's joining us from Texas. Welcome. So just as you're making it into the room, we really love to hear from you. So if you would do us a huge favor too, like this post, share it, comment, and that tells Facebook that we're doing a good job. There's Dolores has made it in from Northern California. Welcome, Dolores. Anybody else, just as you're getting in the room, make sure that you say hello to us. And I'm also going to be answering any questions that you have as far as that's concerned during this time. I'm going to make sure that my sound is off over here. I just realized that I did not do that ahead of time, so forgive me for that. So it is off. So what we're talking about, and we started talking about this this last week. Last week, maybe I surprised some of you. I don't know how many of you really have your ear to the ground and really have captured the opportunity that we're actually sitting in right now. A lot of people don't realize, and especially if you're paying too much attention to what's going on in the culture, and that if you are, like I said last week, if you are a thermometer rather than a thermostat, then a lot of times what people do, and even businesses, especially new entrepreneurs, what they do is they just kind of react to what everybody else is doing, and they get their news from what everybody else is doing. There are people who, I think there's an old saying, and it goes something like this: there are people who either cause what's going to happen, and then there's people who have an opinion about what's happening, and then there's people who are actually asking what happened, and they're just kind of like completely reactive. And what we've got to be as coaches is that we really get to create history. We really get to create and set a higher watermark for everyone else. That means that we've got to be thermostats. It means that we've got to help people. And let me help you with this word really quickly. There's this word narrative, and most of you know it in terms of story. And it's a story, but really what a narrative is, it's meaning. How do I make sense? How do I make sense of what's going on around me? Now, what most people are doing in the world right now is they're making sense of what's going on based on the narrative that they allow themselves to be influenced by. And the narrative that most people are allowing themselves to be influenced by is media. They'll let political figures create the narrative, but most people are watching the news and they kind of regurgitate what everybody else is telling them or what their friends are saying or whatever. It's a dangerous place when people are telling you what the story of the world is and how to make sense of what's going on. Now, listen, it's normal for people to do that. What I'm telling you as a coach is that you have to be the person who actually creates the narrative. Whatever is going on in the world is an opportunity. That's what I would always tell you. I told everyone this at the beginning of the COVID stuff happening and everything else, that you have to be able to look at the situation that we are in right now and know that we have an extraordinary opportunity, and the people who see it as an opportunity and control the narrative and make their own meaning about stuff are going to be extraordinarily ahead during this time. And for some of you, you've reacted. You've allowed the narrative to determine what you're going to do. Some of you are living in fear. Some of you haven't been going out and getting clients. Whereas I have a lot of our students and coaches that I know, and even some other businesses that are making more money than they ever have in their life right now during the same time. What determines it? It determines the narrative. It's determined by the narrative. It's how we're making sense. It's how we're creating meaning. And we have to put up the walls. We have to control the gate on what we allow to fill ourselves. Is it speaking life to us? Is it speaking hope? Is it speaking expectation for the future? Or is it creating barriers? Is it creating scarcity? Because whatever voice you're listening to right now, if it's creating scarcity in your life, there is no scarcity. It all really depends on who you're talking to. Here's what I know is that there are multi-billion-dollar companies that are forming right now in the middle of this. There are businesses right now that are figuring out how to work with what's going on, continue serving people and all that other stuff. And honestly, like I would say again, a lot of people are making more money than they ever have during this time. It's the crazy thing about it. And if you actually watch the jobs reports, which I pay attention to, is that people are going back to work in a really big way. I shouldn't have to tell you because here's what I would tell you. I started my coaching practice in the middle of a recession, which most people would be like, that's the worst time to build a business. But I'd gotten laid off. And I learned really, really quickly that I can't count on anything. And when I got a job to go back into the workforce, it was a fraction of what I was making before. So I couldn't even count on that, especially living in California and everything else. That's what I'm telling you, is that you make the opportunity, because there's always opportunity that's out there. But again, it's about the narrative. What story are we telling, and what's the meaning? We have to do that for our potential clients during this season right now. September is the number one. It's always the best month of the entire year for coaches. What's number two? It's January. So if I wrote that down, and just by way of a reminder for you, and I don't know which one of these is writing better at this moment, so I'm going to try this. Let me see if I can write these so you can see them all. January, February, March. Let me say hello to some people really quick that I know popped in. Shekinah from Trinidad, welcome. Kathleen from Vancouver, British Columbia, welcome. Ron from Katy, Texas. I have some friends there. Andrew from Kenya. Carmen joining us from Houston. Abdullah from Saudi Arabia. Welcome, everyone. And do me a huge favor, because I see people are in the room. I need you to like and to share this post, because this is going to help you, but it's going to help a lot of other people. Just what I said in the very beginning is going to help a ton of people, okay? So we've got March, we've got April, May, June, July, August, because what we're going to talk about today is how do we get strategic about this. August, September. Oh, there we go. That one's working a little bit better. October, November, December. Now, I'm going to erase this part. I'm going to assume that you guys got it all. When you look at your year, and what I always tell coaches is that what I would call, when you look at any year, what you are going to have, and every business knows this, is that you're going to have seasons. And what I would say is that you also have seasons of growth. And you're also going to find that there are specific ways that you serve that have what I would say is specific ways that you can serve people during certain times of the year. There's going to be different ways that people are more receptive, more open, those kinds of things. But when I look at my year, what I'm always going to know is that September is number one and January is number two. Why is that? I'll just recap. September's number one because people are going back to structure. We've already had the big battle with our kids. Go to bed early so you can get up early, start school right, get a breakfast, all of that other stuff. That's where everybody's at right now. Probably more structured than normal because a lot of people, at least in California, we're not able to send our kids to school. We're having to do homeschool online stuff and everything else. But September is the time of the year when everybody's trying to get structure in their life and they're finishing. Because what happens a lot of times during the summertime is that people get a little bit lazy. Some of you got a little bit lazy during summertime and you weren't following through and executing like you normally would. It's okay. It's just that you are falling into the narrative of everyone else instead of creating a narrative of opportunity for people and everything else. No knock on that. What we have to understand is that in anything that we do to build our practices is that we need to be 90 days ahead of any kind of month that's out there. So what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to look at my year And I've got to be 90 days before this event happens. So really, we're talking about September here in June. Let me go above that. We're talking about September here. And what we do is over the course of this time, this is really where you should be right now, is at a climax of call to action so that when September rolls around, yes, we're ready to do this. It's game on time, right? We would do the same thing for January. When would you start doing January? Well, you'd start here, because here's the crazy thing, is that right now you guys are like, well, I'm just getting into September. Listen, we're already going to be talking about the new year when we hit October. And what do you get? Is that you get a build, a climactic build as we are planting seeds up till this point, so that by the time January rolls around, everything's just really rolling. You're going to have some people who will actually become clients back here, but you're going to get the vast majority that are really going to hit here and just into that first 2 weeks of January. And so we're going to look into the first couple of weeks of September, and we're going to be able to add a lot of people to our practices during that time. But we really needed to start planting seeds in June. Now, here's what I'm going to make as an assumption. Most of you didn't do this. Most of you didn't do July. And some of you are like, I have no momentum in my business, so what do I do now? Let me help you get out of that, okay? So this is where we're trying to go. Is I'm just going to show you in one method how I might go about this thing. And I'm going to use my little cheat sheet because some of this stuff I actually went over in our Jumpstart, program. And so what I'm going to do is we were literally just talking about this live. So for some of you Jumpstart people who are on with me right now, we go into extensive talk about this. And I'm not going to be able to go extensive on here because we're going to try to wrap this up in about 30 minutes. What we've got to know is that culture has determined January and September to be huge months where people are already dialed in. They're already calibrated for these kinds of changes. What we really have to do then is that we've got to do, and this is one of the big things that I always tell our Jumpstart students. And for those of you who are wondering what Jumpstart is, I mentor a bunch of coaches. We give you an A to Z business development program to show you how to start your practice. And then we supplement it with live calls every week. And we also give you feedback on what you're working on, and you can connect with other coaches, all of that. I'll show you more about that in a little bit. We want to do our homework on our potential clients. That's really where we start. Because what's going to happen is that your messaging, even though you're always, what I would say is that there's a very specific client that all of you will go after, that you're going to work towards. We're going to call that your niche. Your messaging is going to change based on what's going on throughout the year. Now, if you go on Instagram today and you look at what most coaches are doing, they're not doing this. You can't even make heads or tails of what their target market is, what their niche is, what they even do. They're talking about trauma and brokenness and getting healing and all this other stuff. That's not what coaches do. And so you'll see all of this, and it's kind of the same messaging year round. Their website could probably stand to change, the things that they're offering, the focus parts. How do we know what our messaging should be? We determine the narrative. You get to tell people what their focus should be, because that's what the world's doing. They're saying it's scarce. It's saying that you're not going to have a job. It's saying that everything's going to fall apart and all of this other stuff, depending on who you talk to. So you have to determine the narrative of what should people be focusing on right now. That's what all of your messaging should be on right now. If you are doing emails, if you're going on social media, if you're doing webinars, if you're doing Zoom stuff or whatever, you've got to determine the narrative, and you get to create whatever narrative that you want. Now, with anything that we create as a narrative, the story, how do we get meaning? How do you participate in this moment to get what you want in your life? All messaging is going to have these points to it. One part, when you do your homework on your potential client, is it's going to be what do they want? Second thing, what is the barrier? What is keeping them from getting what they want. All right. What is the gap right now between what they want and where they are right now? So here's where they live, but how can I define that? That's what we're going to talk about in terms of the narrative. And ultimately, that coaching is the solution that you're offering to help them get from here to get what they want. Now, when we do this, depending on the time of the year, the narrative we get to take from culture, we do get to take from a common things, common frustrations, common barriers, common sticking points that people are feeling with, because what we want is to get in touch with people's pain right now. What is their pain? And I'm not afraid of talking about the pain, but I want to be solutions focused. What is the opportunity right now? Because this is where we've got to move people. What opportunity do we have right now that we never had before this moment? And this is where we've got to move people. Now, I'm going to use January. Now, listen, January is going to be a huge January in 2021. You know why? Because everybody has been over 2020 since probably March. It's been a crazy year. So everybody's thinking ahead. Everybody wants 2020 to end. Everybody has thought about their life over the last few months, and they're like, I do not want to go back to that. I do not want to repeat this. So how do we help people? So those are simple ways that we can grab the narrative even right now. 2020 has made everybody think about what the priorities are in their life. And if normal comes back, we don't want to go back to normal. What are the real priorities? And for some people, it's family. For some people, it's their business. Sometimes it's a career change. What's going on more than anything during the summer months, like for here, you know what the narrative should be really focused on in most summers is transition. Because that's most people move in July. If they're going to move to a different area, they get moved and get settled before the school year. So that's usually what summer should be, a focus on transition. But a lot of people are going to be talking about transition through the rest of the year into next year. That's one way that we can actually create meaning around this entire thing. And so what we're trying to do in all of this, what does this time, what does 2020 allow us to do and allow us to be? Well, we're going to talk about what is relevant, what is most relevant in someone's life right now. If you're talking about stuff that's not relevant, then you're probably not going to really get a hearing. So so sometimes there's certain wants and there's certain barriers that are more relevant depending on the time. And what it's going to allow us to do is we can talk about priorities right now. That's going to be one of those things. But ultimately, what this means is that we are going to serve people based on what is going on. I'm not just trying to get somebody to sign up as a client. I'm going to serve them based on what is going on. Now, I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second, and just show you just a really simple strategy that you can begin implementing in the next 2 weeks. Let me just pay the bills really quick. And if you're hungry enough to want this, then I know that you're going to stick around, because I don't do fluffy stuff. Anybody can tell you that I actually give you real stuff, so that I know some of you are frustrated. Some of you don't have momentum. We're going to make this even more tangible in just a second, so that you'll know what to do. But let me pay the bills really quick. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, what are you waiting for? This is what we long for. You know what? Normal is the greatest enemy of change all the time. Normal, getting satisfied, makes people passive, makes them apathetic, makes them pretend like they don't want anything. This is one of the times when the layers get pulled back and people start questioning meaning, purpose in their life, the trajectory that they're on, and everything else. So why have you not gotten trained and certified? If you've Googled getting certified as a coach more than 2 times, you are procrastinating. And I'm calling you out on that, because right now you have no more excuses to not do this thing. You know why? Because our program is fully online, on demand. You can get trained and certified online. You don't have to wait for an enrollment period or any of those other things. It's $195. All 10 modules that cover the core competencies of coaching, that gives you activities so that you put these things into experience. And then it ends with an exam. And when you pass the exam, then you've earned your credential. It's only $195, and you can get enrolled in about 90 seconds. But for those of you who feel like, I like that, but I need business development help because I've never started a business before, we're about the only school that does this. And you need to know that not only are we a school that trains and certifies people and helps them get their businesses started, you need to know that the people who do the instructing here are multi-six-figure coaches. I'm a multi-six-figure coach. I'm not grand about it. I'm not any of those things. I'm very down to earth and everything else. But you need to know that where I've come from, which is having nothing, like zero, like in the minus with a 400 credit score. And it seems like, does everybody have that? Does everybody have that story? No, they don't. Like I had that story because everything that I touched did not turn to gold. It actually seemed to work against me. And I never had a track record of success when it came to those things. And I had to figure this thing out. We've created a program so that you don't have to figure these things out. I learned the hard way. You don't have to go down a hard path trying to figure this stuff out, because actually creating a coaching practice, there's much harder businesses than that. The Jumpstart program has a 20-module business development roadmap. It's the A to Z on how do you develop your business. Everything from how do you discover your target market, how do you discover your niche, how do you sell, how do you answer objections. We have everything really covered as you're going through this. Now, not only do we give you the core modules, but you have an online community of support where you can connect and role play with other coaches. You can get feedback on anything that you're working with. And at the end of it all, every week, I have a live weekly group coaching call where I answer all of your questions and make sure that you don't get stuck. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Certification is part of it. And for those of you who are wondering what that costs, it's Starbucks. It's $3.25 a day. That's what $97 a month is. Let's put it in practical terms. No one's building a 6-figure practice only spending Starbucks money every day. No one's doing that. No one's stepping into a 6-figure business to do that, but you can do that. We give you all the tools, and we'll always be here to make sure that you don't get stuck. Now, that's all I'm going to say in terms of selling. I'll stick this down here, and you can think about it, $325 a day, because anybody will tell you, you get so much more than what we're offering this for. We should be charging thousands for this. This is what most people would charge thousands for. We've certified more coaches in the first month of this year. Matter of fact, in the first 2 weeks of this year, we certified more coaches than the average school does in the United States in an entire calendar year. That's how big we've been able to grow to be. Now, let me give you the practicalities of this before we walk away today, okay? So let me erase all of this. And yes, that's $325. It didn't go to a quarter a day, but $325 is not bad. Let me finish that. So what we have to do then, what does it mean to take everything that I told you, to make things relevant, to do the homework on your people? How would you actually build a strategy around that to help people? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cheat sheet out again, because I did such a masterful job on Saturday. I want to be able to at least look at my board from Saturday. Again, what we're trying to do is that we are building a narrative with everything that we do. So I want you to think about all of your messaging. When I say messaging, here's what I mean by that. I mean your website. So any graphics, and so your website. So that means the content on your website, which is text. And I'm also talking about graphics. You can change your website as much as you want throughout the entire year to be relevant for whatever narrative you want to create, okay? Because we're creating a story. And what is the story really always about? Well, ultimately, the story is not about you. And that's what a lot of coaches do. You go on their website and all you hear about is them. No, your website's for your potential client. It's about, what does your client want? What is the barrier that's keeping them from getting it? And how are they going to get it? So how do they become a champion in their story? And all I'm doing to help them get there is that my piece is right here, is solution. But the story is always about them, right? So in anything that I do in messaging throughout the entire year, I'm picking up on whatever is relevant. So it really can be like, let's say that all we're going to talk about is transition. When am I planting the seed of about transition? I'm planting it in June, but I'm planting a seed. So I'm starting small. So let's go back in time. Let's say that we were able to do this back in time. Now listen, you can catch up on this strategy and do something with it even now, and you can do it in the future, okay? But I want to show you what I would have done if I was in June right now. In June, let's say that I have an email list, and if you guys don't have an email list, you should. Everybody that you know as a potential client should be on your email list right now. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can do this through social media. You can strengthen it through social media. You could do it through videos. You could do it through YouTube videos. You can do a lot of different angles on this. But email is pretty much free. It's pretty much costs you nothing. But what I need to do is I need to have a strategy. So most coaches do not, but I'm thinking about what is my strategy for getting a client in September. So what I'm going to do in my strategy, first of all, I'm going to choose a topic and I'm going to create a narrative out of that. And in June, I'm going to start planting seeds, right? So here's a seed over here in June. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have weekly emails in June. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to overwhelm them, but I want to plant the seed because I need to start creating a narrative and creating meaning for whatever they're experiencing. And it could be from what's going on in the news. It could be going on what's going on in the job market. It can be a number of different things. And I keep building the thing because what did I say earlier? As we're building this thing, see how that goes up? What does that mean? It means the intensity of what I talk about, the intensity of the things that we're doing is going up. July, same thing. This is going to take you a strategy to start writing these things out and having an intention to contact people. Let me give you another tidbit. If you're doing email marketing, you need to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Don't try to send stuff to people on Monday. Don't try to send things to people on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the open rate's very low. You pretty much want to go Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's a $50,000 tip that I just gave you right there in and of itself, okay? Now, in August, I'm going to start picking things up. So you know what that might mean? It might mean that I'm going to go 2 emails a week from week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I'm going to pick it up to 2 emails. Now, here's what you've got to do. The last week and into September, I'm going to start hitting people daily. Because what am I doing? We're out of time. Because what you've got to do in anything that you're creating, and we're talking about this, because back here we're talking about it. But people don't move without deadlines. And most people don't move without a sense of scarcity. Now, what did I say before about scarcity? We don't think in terms of having scarcity because there is none. There's always abundance. But what we're talking about in terms of scarcity is that whatever you're offering that is going to be unique, that's based on the topic, the narrative that you've created, is only really going to be available in September. So the nature of it creates its own scarcity, that this is the opportunity. And you know what is scarce? I'll tell you what's scarce. Why is deadline so important? Time is not on your side if you want to change the world this year. Let me tell you this for you coaches who are listening to me. Time is not on your side right now if you want to kick butt in September. It's just not. You got to do something. It's really at that point that you got to do something. What else are you going to do? You got to do something now. And if you don't do something now, then you're really looking at January. And January is going to be a killer month. But once we get past September, you're really going to be working towards January of doing this kind of thing. So time is not on anybody's side when it comes to things because our opportunities are being swallowed up every day. And what's the old saying? We've got to carpe diem. We've got to seize the day because there's only one today. And I'm not getting any younger. I'm 45 years old. I was talking to an individual just 2 days ago. And I'm like, hey, and he's older than me. I was like, you know what? I'm 45 years old and I'm in my prime. So I've got to do my thing. I've got to run. I got to run hard. And I've got to finish this thing. And that's really the way that I think all the time. Is that time's never on my side when it comes to things. So that means that every opportunity that comes my way, today's your opportunity. Every opportunity that comes your way, if you are a wise person, if you are seeing with eyes, not in terms of scarcity like everybody else is, but seeing your life, the meaning and purpose, that every day you get to determine the narrative, and every day you get to seize an opportunity and do this thing. So this is how you would build towards it. This is a daily email so that we are hitting them every day leading up to that point. And what you're going to see also as this builds is that the vast majority of your people are actually going to start hitting around this point. But you will have some nice blips. You know why? Because you are consistently serving people, connecting with them, and some people are going to join you up here. But a lot of them, and I would say, when I say a lot, could be as many as 50%, 60% that are going to hit from this month on. This is the way that it works. You've got to determine what the narrative is going to be for your life, first of all, and you've got to create that and build it. And so I'm not just trying to sell people, because what ends up happening in this last week is a really strong, what I would say is CDA. It's a strong call to action. This is less of a strong call to action back here because we're just planting a seed and we're serving people. But at this point, it's time to do something. Like, we just don't have time left. And then we move people towards that way. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys and you'll learn something today, and hopefully you'll, most importantly, do something with it. All right. Queen Harvey from Chicago. Adriana from Boston. Welcome, Adriana. Peter joining us from Nigeria. Tisha in Maryland. Welcome, Tisha. And Tisha says, why is September the best month for coaches? Well, let me explain again, and I explained it last week. September is the #1 month because this is culturally how we're formed, at least in Western culture. Now, I can't say that for every country in the world, but even though a lot of countries follow our lead, but people are going into structure. It's finishing things. It's a much more sober approach in September than most months of the year. And it's just a normal, like, hey, we're going to finish this year strong. We're going to get things done. Kids are back in school. People are back into routines, and we can really work off of routines. Sometimes people can be flaky in summertime, can't they? They can say, oh, well, we're getting ready to go on vacation. We got this stuff going on. No, everything gets serious and gets dialed in when September rolls in. All right. Claire says, hi, Paul. Great job. Thank you. Sharon joining us from New York. Welcome. Eddie says, so true. I've had more people coming to me for coaching in the last month than in the last year. There we go. And this is what I want you to get. If you're still here with me, Eddie's just giving you the evidence of it right now. I need some of you to hit the like page, hit like, and to share this because we really need to get this out in front of more people. If you can do me a huge favor of doing that, that would be really beneficial. Donna from Lakeland, Florida. Awesome. Donna says training right now. Gwen says I have started Jumpstart. Excellent. When can I sign up for the Jumpstart program? Inside the description, there's a link, and you can sign up for Jumpstart today because it's open enrollment. So if you want to get started today, go ahead and sign up, and you can, and you'll have instant access. Let's see if I see any other comments. Any questions before we head out for the day? Again, do me a huge favor and just like this post, because what that's going to do is it's just going to tell Facebook that we're doing a good job and we're being helpful. Or if you're on YouTube or even on Instagram, do the same thing. Just give us an interaction. That way they know we're doing a good job. And that's how you actually conquer the social media algorithm when we do things like that. All right. Any final question before we head out? All right. I'm going to assume we did an amazing job. So anyway, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Please don't put off your destiny any further. Again, time's not on our side, but we can put time on our side. Again, if we have 2 weeks left, implement the last portion of this strategy. Start serving people, start creating the narrative. Let's see what you get. It'll be a big difference maker. And September is a full month. So you can get people. It's not just the first week of September. You can stretch this thing and you can make it happen. I believe in you. You can do this. This isn't rocket science. You're amazing. You're brilliant. And yeah, so let's be successful and go and crush it. Hey, have a great rest of your week. Oh, let me say thank you to a couple more people. Dolores says, great to help to get us started. Thank you so much. Adriana says, very informative. I appreciate that so much. All right, listen, have a great rest of your week and take care.